Question for you. So, we had Oliver Stone on last week, and so I went on a binge watching of all these JFK assassination documentaries. And I've already interviewed way too many people on that topic, but just something I'm curious about. How JFK wanted to get rid of the CIA. I'm sure you've read the story somewhere. Which one of these organizations can America do without? So I'll give you the list and you tell me. So, and I hope you're not going to be politically correct, just to give a safe answer. You got CIA, you got FBI, you got PD, you got DEA, you got the IRS, you got which one of these guys can we go without, and it would probably make America a better place?
Can we put Congress on the list?
Yeah, can we? I was going to say, can we put? Can we put?
And you didn't pull a Rick Perry and forget the names that you were going to ask.
Oops.
We got to get rid of these 3 agencies. I can only name 2, though. I apologize.
Yeah, the Department of what?
Education.
Yeah, you know what? With the ones that you mentioned, the CIA, the Bureau, DEA, I would argue you can't get rid of any of those, right? There's a real reason why those exist. Now, at times the bureaucracies get too big. Yeah, fine, but it's like when people say we got to get rid of Customs and Border Patrol or ICE. Get rid of these. It's a simplistic way of looking at it. And when it comes from a politician, they're just blowing smoke up people's ass to score a point, right? Because it's popular to say it. So IRS. Yeah, do we need it to enhance the size of the IRS? I don't think so. Are taxes a good thing if they're used properly? Sure, yeah. So, I'm probably not the best person to talk about this, but definitely don't get rid of the CIA, right? It is a fucked up world out there, and you need, I'll say apolitical, you need an apolitical intelligence service, right?
Is the CIA apolitical these days?
Yeah, I mean, I would, again, it's It had a beating about the same time that the Bureau was taking a beating, but my experience, and that's all I can talk to, I was in the operations side of things, and I'd spent my whole time overseas, so I never saw it as a political organization, right? I never had political conversations with any of the guys that I was working with, right? We'd sit in a safe house for 3 weeks waiting for something to pop. We didn't sit there talking politics. It just wasn't. It wasn't something you did. And when I'd come back and walk the corridors in the main building, there weren't political discussions. So you never had that feeling that's how that built. And you don't want that. I've seen countries where there's a change in government and they shit can everybody, bring in an entire new intel service that's politically bound to whatever administrations come in. That is a disaster that you definitely don't want.
Tom, what do you think? What do you think out of those? He even put ICE in there. So let's throw ICE in there as well. Which one of those do you think we can go without?
Well, I've always thought, and I still think, that Department of Homeland Security is there at airports and the border, and most air travel is like cross state lines. So why wouldn't Homeland Security be part of FBI? FBI covers across state lines. Law enforcement conflict in this nation has been sort of a staple, right? Where the local police are working on a case. Whoops, it's a lot of money across state lines. FBI, excuse me, step back, that's ours, right? So this conflicts have happened. I've always thought that the Border Patrol and Homeland Security are redundant. Since Homeland Security was created after 9/11, I said, well, what does the Border Patrol do? And if it's borders and intrastate things, why wouldn't the FBI have that? And why did we create these notions? So that's my thinking. I think there's redundancy in some of it, but I agree that the FBI is an entity and the CIA an entity and the NSA is an entity. I would never screw with either one of those three.
How about ATF? I mean, alcohol, tobacco.
I was just going to ask that question.
Well, in Texas,
wait. I'm a big fan of all of them. I know. I wasn't sure what the question was.
Well, in Texas, it's
alcohol. I like alcohol. I like tobacco. I like firearms. What's the question?
Hang on. In Texas, ATF is a convenience store, not a federal bureau.
That's a good point.
Well, Pat, the interview you did, the debates, the great debates, you debated whether we need a war on drugs or whether we've won the war on drugs. Do you have a strong opinion of who won that argument, or what were your thoughts on ATF?
I mean, but ATF is a $1.4 billion budget, 5,082 employees, including 2,653 special agents, 760 industry operation investigators. Okay, what are we doing? Alcohol, tobacco, firearms, like what do we? So for me, anytime like in the world of business, when you go at the end of the year, you look at your expenses and budget. What do you look at? You look at it and you say, why are we spending money for this? What are we doing with this? So rather than constantly adding, I think we're not spending enough time thinking about what we can take away and give that responsibility to one of these other departments that can probably do the job. We don't need to have another constantly come up with different departments. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just
I think
I'm on that page. I agree 100% what you just said.
But that's not the nature of government. The nature of government is not, as an animal, is not to shrink itself. So once budgets get set, trying to, it's like every year in the agency, towards the end of the calendar year, you'd get this note, or somebody would say something from senior management about, like, what do you guys need, right? What do you need? Do you need more gear? Do you need more, and because we got to spend the money.
Yeah.
Money's in the budget. If we don't spend it now, then our next budget might be smaller, because they're going to look and go, well, you guys didn't need that, so we'll reallocate those resources. But I do agree, the after 9/11, when they created Homeland Security, but more importantly, when they created DNI, that was something probably could be looked at, right? To shrink that, because I think they did put a lot of redundancy in there. It was just layers of bureaucracy to combine all the various members of the intel community and law enforcement. And I think that's never really functioned the way that it should. Plus, also, I'm not a big fan of having a DNI instead of having the CIA director with a seat at the table. And that's what they did. They pushed the CIA director out and said, oh, the DNI is going to be the guy. And that's a little too political for me.
And by the way, Tyler, go ahead. Ask you. Great question, Tyler.
I was just going to say, you're talking about the budget's always growing. That's not how bureaucracy works. The government is the single largest employer in the country. How many, I love the libertarian perspective of small government. So how many of these organizations can we privatize? Can we privatize the FBI? Can we privatize the CIA? Can we privatize the what have you? Does it have to be a government organization? Because you can make the claim that if you privatize one of these organizations, it will become biased or what have you. But you're seeing the same thing now with all the government organizations.
What would be the benefit to privatize? I'm asking as a capitalist, but I'm asking you, what's the benefit if we privatize?
Well, it seems to me that the private sector can run infinitely better. Anything
operation-wise, you're saying they're going to be more efficient because you got money, profit loss.
Correct. I think it could be better to the taxpayer.
Let me ask you, how do you think
operate better?
How do you think media sells Prince? It's Eric Prince. Is that from Blackwell? How do you think he's portrayed as?
I think a lot of people despise him.
I mean, we have him coming on the podcast, I think, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
How is he? He's sold as a what? He's not
a warmonger.
Yeah. So that's the part as well, and then say the wrong guy, and I don't know. I don't know. So who's this guy? This is widely likely to nominate the new ATF head of after first one was pulled. Aides say the president is committed to filing the post and is vacant for David Chipman's nomination, failed to get needed support in the Senate. Do you know when ATF got started? 1961. So 1961 ATF. So when 1961 ATF got started, was alcohol legal?
Yes.
Okay. Was tobacco legal?
Of course.
Okay. Was firearms legal?
Yes.
So what is your job? Your job is
who was the president? Was that JFK at that point? 61.
61. I would say I think it's JFK. Yeah.
I'm foggy on this, but remember one of the areas of nonviolent crime by organized crime was the old pink tax sticker that used to be on top of all the liquor bottles. And they would print all these things in the Bahamas or in the Caribbean, and these tax stickers were then put on this. And as I recall, it was Treasury Department before ATF that actually presided over that, with even Hoover saying, wait a minute, if this is organized crime, what are you guys doing here?
Do you think it's weird you got that information in your head? Do you think that's an interesting? I'm fascinated.
Welcome to the world of the biz doc, Mike Baker.
I'm fascinated.
It's a lot of information going on.
That's a lot of information in your head, and I'm very impressed.
My brain is like New York City.
Oh, okay.
By the way, he just figured you out in 10 minutes. Yeah. We call him the walking Wikipedia. This guy is always reading, getting information.
But I thought that was a very real thing. It's like where the FBI was out there. Hey, we're trying to bust bootleggers over here. What are you doing here? Well, these are tax stickers, and this belongs to the American people, this little pink thing. And there were actually nonviolent criminals that were out there printing on the tax side, but that weren't whacking each other like they were during Prohibition.
I don't know.
And all of a sudden, we now have guess what? ATF. We'll make a new division. We'll make a new department.
If you enjoyed this short clip, click over here to watch another short clip. And if you want to watch the entire episode, the entire podcast, click here.